Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here with my dear friend Tami Brunk, who I've known forever. I can't even remember, was it like 2006, 2005 we first met? 2006,
I think it was
2000.
2006. I think it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's been like forever ago.
Yeah, it's been
And
almost
then
20 years, 18.
yeah, 18 years ago. Wow. And we had the great pleasure of creating Venus Alchemy together. And this, I'll just say briefly that we had been asked to do something that we agreed to do, but we weren't really excited about. And then as time approached and this event was supposed to happen, and it's like I think I apologized to you, Tammy. I said, I think it's my fault because every time I think about this, I really don't want to do it.
Right. So nobody signed up. It was just like,
Right? Nobody signed up. So then we thought, well, maybe we need to rethink it. And we decided to take people through the Venus cycle as a ceremony. And we had like 65 people in 3 weeks
yeah, yeah.
because we had so
Wasn't
much
it 80? I think
enthusiasm.
it was 80. Maybe what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had so much enthusiasm, so much inspiration. We had 3 weeks to get the first class ready. It was kind of quick. And the other thing that was so amazing about it was because we thought we were going to be one and done. But everybody kept asking that we were going to do the rest of them, and we did. And then you decided that you're ready to go on and do something else. And so I've been doing it with Sheridan the last couple of years, and that's been fun too. But it's just such a great thing that we created together. I just love how we work together, how we got inspired. Your inspiration inspired me, and my inspiration, I hope,
Yeah.
inspired you.
Of course. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because we have so many connections too. We've got the Gemini, we've got the Sag, we've got the Neptune, we've got the Aries, and yes, of course. And you have been one of my dearest friends, guides, just and yeah, I mean, it's so special to have that time. And when we would start to create, it was just like this. And then when after we were going through and we decided to do the Venus signature series, and we were going to try to write a were we going to try to write a book? Is that I can't even remember
I
anymore.
still think that needs to happen at some point.
I do too. I do too. I do think it needs to happen.
Yeah.
That's another conversation.
We got another conversation. Yes.
Happen. It will happen. We've been dreaming it. Sometimes you incubate a dream for a while
Yeah. Yeah,
before
that's
it's
been in
yeah.
incubating since 2014. So 10 years or
Yeah.
well, I mean, we first did the first Venus class. And by the way, it has continued to be very popular. We grew it from 65 to 100, over 100 by the end of that first time. And then it's just kept going at like such this amazing rate. And people have come and gone, but we have people that are still with us from the very beginning.
Well,
So it was
you know,
something magical we created together.
something magical. And I want to also honor that I've really seen because I've been doing it in a more intensive way, myself in my own way. And at some point our we're gonna weave together again in some fashion, I know. But Cayelin, what I was realizing as well is how many people who've taken our courses, um, the Evergreen course particularly, have spun off and done their own thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a funny thing to realize as well. Remember in the beginning, it was all this stuff about proprietary and all these things. Everybody was just like, how are you going to like maintain your integrity with it? And I love you had such an open heart about that. We had our integrity with it. Like, please don't copy what we did. But still, the document that you put together that really dictates, that really demonstrates where all the gates are, because people have access to that with one of the courses. There are many people now out there who are guiding people through the Venus cycle because of the work we did and because of having access to that. And, so
Yeah, it
being
wasn't even a
very
thing when
pleased
we
with,
started, and then suddenly it became a thing. It's become
yeah,
like a
now
big
it's a
thing for
thing.
a lot of people. So, yeah, we kind of started a trend.
We did. That was our Aries.
That was
That's
our
how we
Aries,
like
yeah,
it.
on the forefront of something. That's so
Yeah.
good.
Because I
So,
have the Aries ascendant. Caitlin has the Aries Venus. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yep. So yeah, so just can you just share a little bit more about you and also our topic for today? So
Yes.
this has
Yes.
been
Yes.
fun
Yes.
to revisit all those things too, just saying.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I am when I okay. Let's start. So, with the topic of today really being about 2025, I'm going to first, before I even talk about me, I'm going to talk about what my title is because that weaves in. So my title is Dreaming and Doing Together in 2025. So when I met Cayelin, which was in about 2006, I was beginning a process of transitioning from years as a naturalist, environmental educator, permaculture design person, activist more, as you know, interested in, focused on care for the earth in all those ways. And as a writer, I had a lot of different hats. Um, and so while I was working with Cayelin and while I was getting involved in shamanic astrology, which was the school that Cayelin had co-founded um, with Daniel, and that's when I was learning the system with Cayelin. Um, I was also in this weird place of I was helping with the permaculture farm in the West Bank. I was helping with other nonprofits and that are involved in ecology and all these intersections of earth care and all these different things. But I was trying to identify, I was sorting out my identity as someone who takes care of the earth, is an environmentalist, and as a, a person who is becoming an astrologer. And those two things, as Cayelin knows, have been always like this. How do these worlds work together? Right? Like the part of me that wants to do something on the ground, materialize something um, tangibly and deliberately and actively. And the part of me that understands, as Cayelin, as you taught me over so many years, you would always, because I would struggle with this. And Cayelin, you were always just like, well, I'm very clear that I think you would talk about how you learned so early that our consciousness is what makes our reality, right? And so you're such a good anchor for me in that. And part of me always argued with that in turn, like, well, that's not enough. That's not enough. And it's not as if you weren't doing a million awesome things on the ground, right? So it's not like it's either or. But so this title, Dreaming and Doing Together in 2025, has to do with maybe I think what many of us are, where a lot of us are kind of moving into, which is that we've been honing these spiritual tools and gifts. As I have been with astrology, with active dreaming, as you'll see in my bio. I've been a professional astrologer now since I guess I really established my practice in 2010. Started doing the Venus work with Cayelin and a lot of Venus readings as well. We both do that, and then started studying active dreaming with Robert Moss. And so early on, after we'd started Venus Alchemy, I started exploring this modality of I sky dreaming is part of how I talk about it, or sky alchemy. And what that was all about was really bringing together groups of people to dream into what the deeper essence of each of the astrological signs and planetary bodies were, through giving them the tools of active dreaming, and then dreaming together when the moon would activate a certain planet or point in the sky, that we would dream with that, and we would really be actively exploring what is the new emergent energy of that sign. um, and so I started that practice then, and I've been doing it since. And in fact, my version of astrology is now shifting. I'm going to be calling it emergent astrology. It's a whole thing. Yeah, I think we both know that we need to evolve forward. I know yours is alchemical astrology at this point, which is perfect. Um, but I think many of us are at this place where we've been cultivating our spiritual superpowers, and we're certainly going to need all the practices we can get in these coming years. And it feels like for many of us, we're also in the coming year in 2025, we're beginning to really anchor some of our dreams in the ground with community. And so that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today. It's a little bit about what I'm going to talk about today. Does that make sense? Am I all over the
Yes, I
place?
love that. And I think about Neptune moving into Aries. It's in Pisces, moving into Aries. It's been in Pisces for 14 years, moving into Aries, coming back into Pisces, moving back into Aries. But if we think of the Pisces Aries,
Gosh.
um, Pisces is dreaming and Aries is action, it's a perfect title, dreaming and doing. Ah, so perfect. It really ties the whole theme of what this is all about. This year really feels like it's all about the Aries Pisces dances that are taking place, not only with Neptune and Saturn, but also with the Venus cycle that's
Absolutely.
starting retrograde in Aries, conjuncts the Sun in Aries, rises its morning star in Pisces, and goes direct in Pisces, and then comes back into Aries. So there's this Aries Pisces dance that's taking place in such an amazing way. So that is
Yeah.
such a perfect title, just
Yeah.
saying.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, and I absolutely, I love how you're speaking into all of that. Yeah, and it, because, I think so much about how we've been moving through this Saturn in Pisces, which is like spiritual maturation. And in some ways, it's also about grounding the dream, right? And that Neptune and Saturn have been really traveling together. So that's also kind of that similar energy of the dreaming and bringing it into physical form. But yeah, to activate the dream, to bring it alive, to make it happen in real time is yeah, it's such a massive theme right now, and it's incredible that and so we knew, and you asked me to do something on the dreaming, which was perfect because of course this year it is with the Venus cycle, particularly being the first Venus and Pisces cycle, as we've talked about for a long time, in 150 years, about right.
155.
155. Okay, 155 years since we've
Yep.
had our last Venus and Pisces cycle. And what a significant thing that is on so many levels. Thank you. Thank you. So glad that we are shifting into this kinder, more peaceful. It may not look like it on the surface yet, but we know it's coming.
Yeah,
Right?
104 years in the Pisces realm. So, we got time.
We've got time. Right.
And it's going to do a little shifting back and forth between Aries and Pisces for the next couple cycles as well.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
we got time.
Which is how it works,
Yeah.
and it is that back and forth movement that probably, thank goodness, we get to have that time for integration.
Yeah.
So between the Venus cycle and then of course North Node in Pisces and Neptune at the anaretic, the last degree of Pisces still, and Saturn and Neptune still moving back and forth this year. It felt like the dreaming is such a massive essential thing. And of course, you and I both with the Pisces and Neptune as a strongly featured part of our charts. It's always been fun to talk dreaming with you. Um, so I want to share another reason it came through that way because the timing is always perfect in terms of what happens around these things. And yesterday I was reminded of another dear friend and mentor of mine and collaborator, and her name was Leora Adler. I might even show her picture because she's such a precious soul, and I think she wants to be in the room. Can I share my screen?
Let me just make sure if you're trying to share it and it's not letting you, I just give me a second and I'll give you the
Okay.
ability to do that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you should be able to now.
So, because she really embodies what we're talking about here. I think it's pretty great. So I was really, she passed last May, Leora Adler, and she was, I think of her now, she's like this lioness of a woman. She's so wonderful. And the reason I bring her up is because she was such an embodiment of that dreamer and doer. This is Leora Adler when she was much younger. It was her birthday yesterday. She was a
Oh,
Pisces full moon baby. She's just a gorgeous soul. So it was just her birthday. She was a Sagittarius too, like you and I have that Sag, a lot of that Sag. And the reason I bring her up is two reasons. One is because she would always teach me exactly that. It was, it's good to have dreams, but it's even better when you actually take action on those dreams. And so Leora, who she had been, I met her in Peru in 2003 when she was really spearheading this whole amazing event. It was called the Call of the Condor, bioregional gathering in the shadows, the foothills of Machu Picchu. And they had gathered 800 people from 36 different countries. They were eco-village founders from Findhorn and other places like that. Jose Arguelles was there, one of the individuals because he was a friend of Leora's. So there are these high spiritual teachers and indigenous elders, like Kiddo elders and from other traditions, and then permaculture designers from across the globe. All these people who we got together for a week and created this temporary eco-village just in the shadow of Machu Picchu. And we were teaching each other and learning and dreaming and praying together about this new reality we wanted to create. And I was just, I don't know how old, I was like 30 maybe. And the whole thing just blew my mind wide open. I was a bit dazed and confused by the whole thing. All these people, that are doing this magical thing. My Gemini moon was very happy. But in any case, the thing for me was Leora, this very petite Jewish kind of lioness of a woman. I think she was 56 years old at the time. And she was, among other things, she was figuring out how to convert currencies from 36 different countries. And she was taking care of a lot of the administrative work. She was a Capricorn midheaven like me. But I mean, she was this like fire in action. And that was just one of the things she'd done in her life was to help really facilitate this event. But she also had helped to found an eco village outside of Cuernavaca, Mexico. She helped to found Gaia University with her partner, which was a online university teaching people about eco-social design, all these cool ways of living in a new way. In any case, I'm talking about her right now because she always really embodied. She talked about buen vivir, living well, living beautifully, how important that was. But in our work together and in our connection, because she's such a dreamer, she really understood when I started doing the shamanic healing work with active dreaming with Robert Moss's program. And at the time I started working with that, and I was working strongly with you at that time with the Venus Mysteries, Leora had a brain tumor and she had to get surgery for that. And so I'm sharing this because this is an example of what we can literally do with the dreaming, like literal night dreaming. She gave me an opportunity to explore that because she asked me if I would help her through some dream healing with her surgery. And so what ended up happening was that she asked me to do it. And the way that would work is I would incubate a dream. I'm sure you're familiar. I know you're familiar with that. A lot of listeners are that you ask for your dreams to demonstrate for you or to give you some kind of a healing energy or some kind of an image or some kind of to give you a dream that can help you address an issue. And so I just kind of put that in the dream incubator, like in the back of the consciousness. And I kind of forgot about it until about a month and a half later. And I didn't know when the surgery was. And all of a sudden, one day I woke up and I'm like, oh my gosh, when is she going through the surgery? So it was in the evening. And then that night I drummed and I asked for that dream and to support Leora. And when I did, I got this beautiful image. It was this beautiful lake in the mountains. And this moose, this enormous, beautiful moose, was right there in this lake, this body of water. And it was very vivid. And then I woke up. And so when I woke up, I called Leora, and her husband, Andrew, answered the phone. And he said she had just gone into surgery. And so I ended up drumming and I ended up visiting her through journeying in the hospital where she was. And the moose came with me, the grandmothers came with me, because you and I know very well that in the dreaming, the grandmothers can be a tremendous ally, tremendous. And so they went, and these little Jewish grandmothers were all around her, helping her heal. And in this dreaming, and the moose actually gave its life force energy to support her in this process. So when she came out, I ended up sending her an email with everything that I'd seen, and we spoke a little while after that, and she shared with me the way that moose had been a very important animal for her. And it was a really touching thing for both of us to have had that experience of seeing how the dreaming can come through. And I just thought it was interesting. It was a Pisces full moon when this happened, the surgery. She was a Pisces full moon baby. And it was kind of a watery dream that had come through. But in any case, when I'd seen the thing with Leora, I've got to tell a little bit about Leora's story. So the work that we do, for anybody who's listening, we're multifaceted, and more we're learning to step into such multidimensional ways of being. And so, we can do very practical, tangible 3D things, and we can also affect change at such a massive scale when it's through consciousness or through dreaming. Anyway, so for whatever reason, I wanted to start with that, even though I know we're well into.
Well, but I think that's a great example, and that it can be helpful for people to have those examples to see that the dreaming is a really big piece of it. And there's also the part of the doing that we can engage once we've done the dreaming, and that you were doing this for her as a healing process. So to keep that in mind as well. And how are we dream healing ourselves and the earth at this
Yeah,
time, since
exactly.
there's so this is so needed at this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, the earth dream healing. Yeah, absolutely. There is so much of that that's needed. And I think you've always taught me that the conscious being being aware of our own frequency and our own state of being and tending to our own consciousness is taking action. It is taking action, and I've always had to remind myself of that because that in and of itself is something that is it's the first step.
Yeah.
It
We
just
don't have to
without that.
move mountains.
What?
you don't have to go move mountains.
Right. No,
Like it's
no.
not that necessarily that big. It's just if we're clean and clear inside ourselves and vibrating with love and doing the best we can from loving kindness, that can change the world. It
Right.
doesn't have to be something super big on the world stage. It can be. It doesn't mean it couldn't be. It just doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And all the different little steps count there. It's almost
Yeah.
like the size doesn't matter. It's the quality of presence.
Yeah.
So Leora just she was great. I interviewed her in 2022, and maybe I'll share that, or I'll share that link with you to her interview. But I just, I had done this, and that's my free gift actually, is this convergence that I had done in 2022, where I interviewed, I think, 22 different people. You were one of those. Your presentation was wonderful. And it was in response to the Pluto return for the US. And it was just some of the most inspiring people I've met who bridge the worlds of spirituality, ecology, all these different fields. And so hers is in there. And the gift is you can access any of those interviews. But when I had done this event, it was, it was a bit ad hoc. It wasn't like this very shiny, well packaged thing, but it was very alive. And she was so wonderful because that's what she said to me too when we got on to talk after many years of not speaking, or just being very busy in our lives. She just said, this is what she said, the important thing is you did it, you made it happen. And it just, that really is how she lived her life. You make the thing happen. And so I think that in 2025, um, we learn with this new, and we're also completing this North Node and Aries cycle, right? So I think that I actually feel sometimes that when we complete a cycle, that it's important to remember that we then have access, and it's important to integrate consciously and know we then have access to that rooted, grounded foundation that's under us, right? So now we have Pluto and Capricorn. So I feel we really are going to need this really purified and grounded and rooted Capricorn energy as we're moving fully into Pluto and Aquarius, and the capacity to really organize well. And then we're also going, that's going to be needed to feed into the Pluto and Aquarius energies, right? So we can, as we organize, create more egalitarian, humanitarian systems, we learn to work together, that we also ground and root that really well. And then I think as we move from the North Node and Aries into Pisces, we also have been doing so much work to heal codependency. We've been doing so much work to stand in our sovereignty. We've been doing so much work to individuate and differentiate, because that's vital. And also to learn how to take action when that's required and needed. And so, really, to have that as our foundation as we move deeper into the dreaming. And then, of course, Aries is going to explode again with, as you've said, with Saturn and Neptune. We're going to move into the deeper octave of the Aries energies. But to me, what I keep seeing and feeling, and it's where I live right now, we were talking early on, um, is that humans, many of us as humans, we're actually, and I've seen it so many times, what we're really learning to do is drop in, get really still, and listen first. And to me, that in this time of year right now, when we're doing this right now, Cayelin, I bet you feel this too. It just like feels like listening is the most important thing. And that's hard for me sometimes. But
Well,
you're
it might be a challenge for me too, just saying.
it's the fire signs, right? It's just like
Right. It's like we just need to get on to the next thing.
right. Yeah, yeah, totally. But there's this listening. It's like listening. What does the land want? What is the land around me that is now waking up with all these cosmic currents and with the solar flares and the awakening alive sun, all the ways our earth is waking up? What's she saying? What are the spirits of the land saying? How is she wanting to show us in our dreaming how to be with her in an ancient and a new way? And that's what I'm seeing. Like there's a group of women here. I'm back in Missouri. Cayelin knows I'm back and forth, but here I am back in this very sacred land. There are native mounds everywhere up and down. I'm right by the Missouri River. And there's this beautiful group of women who've just gathered. And the woman who is guiding this group, her name's Rose. She's an elder, and she has built her own home. And there's 13 women in the group, and most of them are land guardians, is how I see them, because they've been close to the land, they have their own land, they've been caring for it, and kind of like back behind, out in the woods, like nobody sees them, but they're herbalists and they're healers, and they're all so a young woman, Erica, who is in her early 30s, and she is out on the land in a school bus with her little girls running an herbal company and really trying to create a new way of raising her children, being on the land. She started having dreams of a sweat lodge and gathering women. And Rose had many years when there was a Sufi community here. And then when many native people had come through this area and trained a lot of locals because they recognize this is a sacred area, she was trained to do sweats for many years. And so she was reluctant. She really, at this stage in her life, she didn't necessarily want to do it at first, but she felt the call and she really started listening to the land. And they're calling it the Grandmother's Lodge.
Oh, love that.
They're calling it the Grandmother's Lodge. And so they were dreaming to see where the willows wanted to be gathered. And then they gathered the willows and then they put it in the pond and the beavers came and ate them. So then it also became the Beaver Lodge. So this group of 13 women, though, she's had these dreams she's been following, and I'm happy to be part of it and not just always be leading. I think you know that feeling, right? With the local communities, it's like, let me be part. But they're dreaming it together. We're all dreaming it together now. And 13 of us over 13 months are each going to learn how to do the sweat ceremonies. So we're going to do it every month. And and the land showed where it wanted to happen. And my sense is what we're all going to be learning to do is dreaming together on the land with the land. And that's been my deepest devotion since I came back this last time too. I was in Ireland and we were doing a big group of us were doing some grid work and a lot of dreaming work on the land there. And then I brought that here. I was telling you, I learned my grandfather was a dowser. He was a witcher, as they call it. And I feel like he's with me a lot now, right now too. And it just feels like learning to listen and see where things want to happen, how they want to happen, and then learning to do that collectively and collaboratively. I think that's something a lot of us are learning. Um,
Yeah,
and
I'm really loving what you're saying. And here's the thing I think that might be helpful is just to
yeah,
like if everybody could create a little space on the land, it doesn't like if you're in an apartment, you might need to go out somewhere. You know,
right.
I like to create little stone cairns or stone circles or things like that and just to give blessings to the land and then open to listen and the land will guide.
Yeah,
And then also then the collective piece as well. So we can do our individual piece and we can do a collective piece and to really I just love that we can align and even in an apartment, I did this in my apartment where I aligned with the spirits of the land and what they were asking for in my apartment. And it was a big apartment complex. This was back in 2005. And the people that were running the apartment complex asked me what I was doing. Like they knew I was doing astrology, but they were like,
right.
what is it you do exactly?" And I started sharing about this thing about creating a grid in my apartment with
Uh-huh.
crystals and intentions
Oh,
and things like
wow.
that. And they said, "Can you show us how to do that?" And so they went and did it on the whole property. It's like it went from my little apartment to the whole entire property. So we don't know what an impact our piece can have. I wasn't expecting that at all, at
Uh-huh.
all. And
Love
when I
that.
came back, I was gone for like a month or two, and I came back, and their energy was completely different. They were just more lit up and more passionate and
Mm.
alive and feeling good, and they were so excited. They had someone coming to full moon ceremonies at the property. Like it just changed everything. So we just don't know
I don't
what
know.
if I was doing it for me, but it wound up being for the whole property. So
Wow, that is such a beautiful teaching. Thank you. Yes, 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 yes. Because absolutely in urban areas. And it was funny, my oldest sister, Tracy, who we both have been deeply connected with Leor and this other group of, you know, people who are doing kind of globally based eco, all these things that sound so, fancy or funny or fun or whatever. They're like it's kind of sexy, right? But it's also whatever, we're all doing it. Um, it's funny because I was like, Tracy, how like we were trying to remember like who's doing like eco village design but in a pre-existing community, because I think you and I have talked about that a lot. Like how do we do it in urban areas? How it's not just creating intentional community that almost never works. And and so I think in what you're saying is so important on a couple levels, because first of all, it's just our own practice first, and then we resonate, and no matter what we're doing, it's going to resonate with others. and it's going to do more, it's going to create more ripples. And I remember when I came to visit you and we'd go into the bank, we'd go in different places, and you're just so beautiful because you're just like, you are just you, and you don't put on any masks. And all these places we would go, there's like this innocence of your spirit that's just like, I'm just me. And then there would always be these interesting little conversations that would happen where people are like, oh, and you have a very welcoming energy, right? Of like, of just everywhere you go in 3D reality, people are just like, oh, well, I didn't think about it that way. Or, so I love that story. And that's so true. It's really what's needed, is I think for us to be exactly who we are, where we are, and to be taking action, and then to see and to be brave enough, I think, to do that, and to be honest and authentic and kind of innocent, like a little child almost, around other people when they ask. So we're generous, and we're happy to share, because people really need that magic. They need that sense of connection, and yeah, we can just overflow. It feels like overflow, right?
Yes. Yeah, and we don't even really have to know, quote unquote, what we're doing. Like it doesn't have to be a specific way of doing it. Just
Right.
what feels aligned and how you feel guided in the moment is it's like that's what I did.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
I
weren't
had
setting
some
out to do
ideas
anything.
of what I wanted to do, but this idea that I wanted a crystalline web that would draw to me everything I needed, and it did.
It did.
And it did. Yeah.
I love that.
I wound up being there
Good.
for a year, and then I moved on, and like my life got even better, but it was just like this pause place for me to be at the end of a second marriage, and oh, right, didn't know it at the time, but the beginning of a third.
Right. Okay. That was the moment in your life. All right. That
Yeah,
makes so much sense.
yeah,
Oh, I love that.
that was my
That, and
in
that
between place.
that's so amazing. And that is, it's exactly it. It's like dreaming and doing together. But when we dream and do together, because this is the kind of there's so many ways to talk about this, but this is the interesting moment we're in, where on the one hand, it is, first of all, it can be so noisy out there right now. It's just like there's so much drama.
Yeah,
And the number one rule really is, like, I think, especially this time of year, like withdraw to a degree and just connect, get quiet and still. Just take time to take care of yourself first and get coherent inside of yourself. And then when you, at this moment, there's so much magic and possibility when we do that. And then we reach out, because so many people are waking up and so many people are coming into their innate magic. So dreaming and doing together right now can be amazing. And it is,
magical.
it's magical. Yeah, there's just synergy, there's flow, there's just, I mean, and it's interesting because I was thinking, I call myself Earth Sky Woman because part of it is the anonymous trees. She's such a sky Earth woman, and I've come to recognize that's part of who she is for me. But I think more and more when I think about this new Earth frequency, or however we want to call what it is we're moving into, this new time, or I don't even know what to call it, whatever it is, who knows what we're doing. But
But things are changing,
things are,
vibrations are changing,
we
uh,
know that for sure.
realities for people are changing.
They
So yeah,
are, yeah. And yeah, they are changing. And I think more and more, I feel like when I was in New Mexico, or when I'm out west and in the desert, there's a certain kind of creation that happens there. It's like a higher tone. It's like a higher frequency, a higher tone, where possibilities are really magical and beautiful at this level. And then when I come here to Missouri, it's like deep, rich, watery, big oak trees. And so what I'm feeling with this group of women is very, it's like a deep tone co-creation, right? It's like a different tone, like lower in the energy centers of the body. And so I think what we sometimes when we talk about frequency, it's really more about coherence. And I
yes,
think it's going to be interesting, right, to see how I feel like it's every place on the land. It's the place on the land, and it's the culture of the people that kind of can weave together to create something really beautiful and never before seen. There are these new ecosystems of human and land that are emerging now. And that is certainly, when I say land, it's certainly in cities. I mean, because cities have a pulse, they have an aliveness. There's a reason people gather in one place. That's where a node is, that's where the power is. So, whether you live in a city or in the country, it doesn't matter. It's whatever feels right to you. And there are opportunities in each of those places that you don't find in the other. So, wherever you find yourself listening, I'm going to guess that this is the perfect place. We're where we need to be right now.
And it might be temporary, or it might be,
Right.
for the rest of your life kind of thing. We don't know,
Right. I don't
but
know.
just to create a relationship to where you are,
Right.
uh, that is maybe goes beyond just what we do every day and not think about too much. So,
Right.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think one other thing when I think about this year that was kind of fascinating that I had discovered in 2021 was, many listening will know about the Mayan calendar in 2012. That was so long ago now. But
Yeah.
another one of those moments where we knew that we were moving through another octave of massive change and shift. And then 2020 felt like another one. 2017 did to a lot of people too. But the Toltec long count calendar I learned about from a dream teacher, Sergio Magano. And he is Sergiomagano, I think, or I can't remember. But you can look him up and look up Toltec dreaming. And he talked about his elders saying that we move from the fifth world. They talked about worlds as an age that's 6,600 years long, that we had moved from the fifth world to the sixth world in May of 2021, that there had been this kind of shifting, which I thought was really interesting because what they would say is that we had moved into like from what they would call a day sun to a night sun, which isn't about light or anything, but it's more masculine to feminine. And the big thing that struck me when he wrote about it and talked about it was that he said it was the time of more yin energy, or the time of the dreamers. So, whereas in the past, it was all about what was happening externally, being directed from the outside in. And now it's the time for the people who are directed from the inside out. And even more interestingly was that how malleable our reality is right now. It's immensely malleable. And I love that. This is a time for us as dreamers. And so when we get rooted into our own internal coherence, into our dreams, and then we join with other dreamers who I sometimes think of as vision carriers. I like to call us vision carriers because we're carrying these visions, in terms of the ones who are dreamers who want to act on that and make something happen. But so that's the time we're in, is it may not appear that the world is malleable, but when we really look at our life experience, isn't it amazing how quickly it changes? Like everything changes around us when we change in here.
Yes. 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 Oh my gosh, that's so good. So I'm wondering, do you feel like you've shared everything you want to share? Is there any kind of wrap up thing? And you did mention something about your free gift, but maybe we can mention it
Yeah.
again. And also, I would be happy to put a link to the Toltec thing that you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. So oh my God,
Um,
the
yeah.
books, yeah, I have. They're pretty
So if you
interesting.
give that to me, I'll make sure people can
Sure.
get
Okay, great.
that.
Yeah. I think what else? Hmm. I mean, I think the main piece of what I feel right at this moment, just speaking from this moment now, is that from now, I just have to say, it feels like everything's changing so fast. From moment to moment, everything's shifting. Um, but I feel like in 2025, it's kind of a foreshadowing of the next coming years. But what I see and feel for myself, and I see and feel for many of us, is um, that these new communities are emerging, and we are learning to work together again. And that all the work we've been doing with South Node and Libra is really, it's bearing some really good fruit, because we know more than ever before who we are, what our needs are. And because of that, then we are, then you could say, almost like a trustworthy, or we're capable of co-creating in a new way. And so, yeah, so I think it's going to be really exciting to actually see how we meet these times. I'm really excited about this coming year, and really, really honored to be talking to you about it and have this conversation. And um, yeah, and I think I'll talk about the gift a little bit more just briefly. Um, I have a lot of different programs that are coming up, but they're all in malleable form. So I don't know. Um, but with what I'm offering as a gift, it's some of the most inspiring people that I know, 22 different individuals who've deeply inspired me, who are dreamers and doers, who kind of bridge that world between spirituality and those who are um, really creating new templates for how it is that we be in community, how we care for the land, how we be together, how we create new social structures. So I highly recommend it if people want to watch that and just kind of pick out
Yes.
whoever you want to hear.
That was amazing to be a part of and amazing to watch and just see be witness to all the people that things they shared. So for those who are inspired, you definitely want to engage this because it will help you to figure out maybe if you, especially if you don't know. I mean, if you already know, maybe you don't need that, but on the other hand, maybe it would help you with what you already know. So
Right.
what you're
Right.
doing. Yeah. So I like that. Yeah.
And I think with Uranus moving into Gemini, it's, there's this open to possibility. You might like, I think it's beautiful what you said, like, we don't know, but if you like really look at what all is around you and hone your attention at what's beautiful that's emerging, then you're going to find your path.
What lights you up?
Yeah. What lights you up?
That's something that we started the conversation with, but what lit us up was to the idea of taking people through the Venus cycle as a ceremony.
Yeah.
And I know you'd already done it, and I had done it for myself, and we were able to combine our skills of, around that. But it lit us up, and it was like it just took off like wildfire. So
Yeah.
if you're on the right track if you feel lit up.
That's right. Thank you for that reminder. Absolutely. Because yeah, we need more people who have come alive, right? Isn't that's an interesting quote? It's I don't remember that, but yeah. And just when it lights you up, then it's going to propel you forward. And and we need
Yeah,
more
there's
lights in the world.
enthusiasm and passion and the willingness to do what needs to be done because sometimes there are some hard steps.
Yeah,
To be honest,
absolutely.
yes, there are some hard steps, but also it's so fulfilling and it's so enlivening. It's so great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is so great, Tammy,
Oh,
to connect with you like this. It's been a while and I have missed our connection. So we're going to have to do more of this going forward.
me
Definitely.
too. Definitely. Yes, I've missed you too.
So thank you everyone for being here. I hope this has been supportive and is inspiring for you in terms of how we engage 2025. And thank you again so much, Tammy, for the wisdom and insights and beauty that you have brought to this. Really
Thank
appreciate
you. Thank you. So grateful to be with all of you and to be with you today.
it. Yeah. Bye. Mwah.